Hello, lovely internet people. Here's HR back for another drawing adventure. They're shooting fireworks off in my neighborhood, so you might hear some background explosions because I live in South Carolina and they like fireworks here, so that's a thing. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing well. I am getting the audiobook pulled up. My apologies, I was running late today. Just messing around with the kiddo and whatnot. I think it's this one. That's the one. And I'm pulling up where it's on stream as well because I enjoy it. Oh man, my computer's already getting loud and sounding unhappy. How's everyone doing today? I hope y'all are doing well. All right, there we go. We're about set up. Cool, cool, cool. All right, we've got a donut to finish. And I'm not sure if you guys can hear the fireworks in the background. My closed captions are still pulling from outer space, so that is fun. I did do a tiny bit more work on this, but not too much. Oh, I froze. I'm freezing. Hopefully all these fireworks and everything are not interfering. That would suck. Okay, I'm not frozen on OBS. I'm not frozen over here. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. A lot of people on today. Okay, I think we're good to go. I'm going to start our audiobook in just a minute here. Letting this pencil charge up a little bit more. I'm just not with it today. Let me do that so you can see where our donut man came from. Oh, that looks so weird in the video. Like in the replay, how it's putting that black on the background. Also, still fireworks going off. It's fun times. I don't know if the sprinkles are going to stay. Maybe. We'll take a vote later as to whether or not to leave the sprinkles. But basically, I can speak. Basically, I just did a little bit more on the icing to try and like icing up his icing a bit more. Let me put the reference on. So yeah, final drawing of the year, but perhaps not the final painting. I think I finally figured out a painting setup, so I'm likely going to be doing some test streams tomorrow. If you have a canvas and like the basic primary colors and some black and white, and you want to join along for a little painting sesh, that will be an option. Okay. Okay. Hold, please. We are on part 3, section 5 of Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. We've honestly been working on this for a few weeks now. Took a little bit of a break. Now we're back. This one was published in 1807. And this is his third section, where basically it's mostly picking apart things mentioned as prophecies and miracles in this section. Highly recommend if you've never read Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. Definitely a worthy read, although it makes you a little bit sad because we're still having so many of the same arguments now. But anyway, all right. So, part 3, section 5 is where we are. I'm going to switch over this audio and then that's because I just switched my audio over to start the audiobook. I was saying that we're going to finish this donut and then you're going to see it appear on the overlay in live time tonight because today the Christmas decorations are going to go away. And today, test pattern is going to be moving to the coffee bar, and Mr. Donut Man will be joining us on screen. I think we're gonna end up moving that over maybe. I don't know. I do like the thumb owl where it is. So we're gonna have to figure out where to put the test pattern. We might need to draw a new like coffee bar for them to hang out in. Make it like a concert or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Can you hear the fireworks going off in the background? And how are you doing today? See, I don't see it spiking in the audio, but there's a lot of fireworks going on like right outside the house. We'll go to bed. But anyway, yeah, Christmas decorations are coming down today since this is going to be the last like streaming stream. But I'm gonna have some test streams. I don't want to say during the day because it might end up being during the night. But I think I finally figured out how to do a painting stream. Because I've been saying I wanted to do a painting stream for a while, but I haven't been able to figure out how to like do the setup and have a camera and everything. But then I realized I have another way to do it, potentially. So I'm going to be doing a test stream at some point tomorrow. Maybe in 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. But we're going to potentially do a painting on stream. Anyway, part 3, section 5 of the Age of Reason is where we are. We might actually finish this today. Now I'm going to switch over the audio again. And then try to not keep talking. So yeah, we're gonna finish this donut. We're gonna change up the decorations, and then I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something. All right.
Part 3, Section 5 of The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Book of Mark. There are but few passages in Mark called prophecies, and but few in Luke and John. Such as there are, I shall examine, and also such other passages as interfere with those cited by Matthew. Mark begins his book by a passage which he puts in the shape of a prophecy. Mark chapter 1, verse 1. The beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as it is written in the prophets, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare the way before thee. Malachi chapter 3, verse 1. The passage in the original is in the first person. Mark makes this passage to be a prophecy of John the Baptist, said by the Church to be a forerunner of Jesus Christ. But if we attend to the verses that follow this expression, as it stands in Malachi, and to the 1st and 5th verses of the next chapter, we shall see that this application of it is erroneous and false. Malachi, having said at the 1st verse, Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me, says at the 2nd verse, But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap. This description can have no reference to the birth of Jesus Christ, and consequently none to John the Baptist. It is a scene of fear and terror that is here described, and the birth of Christ is always spoken of as a time of joy and glad tidings. Malachi, continuing to speak on the same subject, explains in the next chapter what the scene is of which he speaks in the verses above quoted, and who the person is whom he calls the messenger. Behold, says he, chapter 4, verse 1, the day cometh that shall burn like an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day cometh that shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Verse 5, Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. By what right, or by what imposition or ignorance, Mark has made Elijah into John the Baptist, and Malachi's description of the day of judgment into the birthday of Christ, I leave to the bishop to settle. Mark, in the 2nd and 3rd verses of his chapter, confounds two passages together, taken from different books of the Old Testament. The second verse, "Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare the way before me," is taken, as I have said before, from Malachi. The third verse, which says, "The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his path straight," is not in Malachi, but in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 3. Whiston says that both these verses were originally in Isaiah. If so, it is another instance of the disordered state of the Bible, and corroborates what I have said with respect to the name and description of Cyrus being in the book of Isaiah, to which it cannot chronologically belong. The words in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 3, "The voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his path straight," are in the present tense, and consequently not predictive. It is one of those rhetorical figures which the Old Testament authors frequently used. That it is merely rhetorical and metaphorical may be seen at the 6th verse. "And the voice said, Cry. And he said, What shall I cry? All flesh is grass." This is evidently nothing but a figure, for flesh is not grass, otherwise than as a figure or metaphor, where one thing is put for another. Besides which, the whole passage is too general and declamatory to be applied exclusively to any particular person or purpose. I pass on to the 11th chapter. In this chapter, Mark speaks of Christ riding into Jerusalem upon a colt, but he does not make it the accomplishment of a prophecy, as Matthew has done, for he says nothing about a prophecy. Instead of which, he goes on the other tack, and in order to add new honors to the ass, he makes it to be a miracle, for he says, verse 2, "It was a colt whereon never man sat," signifying thereby that as the ass had not been broken, he consequently was inspired into good manners, for we do not hear that he kicked Jesus Christ off. There is not a word about his kicking in all the 4 evangelists. I pass on from these feats of horsemanship performed upon a jackass to the 15th chapter. At the 24th verse of this chapter, Mark speaks of parting Christ's garments and casting lots upon them, but he applies no prophecy to it as Matthew does. He rather speaks of it as a thing then in practice with executioners, as it is at this day. At the 28th verse of the same chapter, Mark speaks of Christ being crucified between 2 thieves. That, says he, the scriptures might be fulfilled, which saith, "And he was numbered with his transgressors." The same thing might be said of the thieves. This expression is in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 12. Grotius applies it to Jeremiah. But the case has happened so often in the world where innocent men have been numbered with transgressors, and is still continually happening, that it is absurdity to call it a prophecy of any particular person. All those whom the church calls martyrs were numbered with transgressors. All the honest patriots who fell upon the scaffold in France in the time of Robespierre were numbered with transgressors. And if himself had not fallen, the same case, according to a note in his own handwriting, had befallen me. Yet I suppose the bishop will not allow that Isaiah was prophesying of Thomas Paine. These are all the passages in Mark which have any reference to prophecies. Mark concludes his book by making Jesus to say to his disciples, chapter 16, verse 15, "Go ye into all the world, and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned." Fine popish stuff, this. "And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover." Now the bishop, in order to know if he has all this saving and wonder-working faith, should try those things upon himself. He should take a good dose of arsenic, and, if he please, I will send him a rattlesnake from America. As for myself, as I believe in God, and not at all in Jesus Christ, nor in the books called the Scriptures, the experiment does not concern me. I pass on to the book of Luke. There are no passages in Luke called prophecies, excepting those which relate to the passages I have already examined. Luke speaks of Mary being espoused to Joseph, but he makes no references to the passage in Isaiah, as Matthew does. He speaks also of Jesus riding into Jerusalem upon a colt, but he says nothing about a prophecy. He speaks of John the Baptist and refers to the passage in Isaiah of which I have already spoken. In the 13th chapter, verse 31, he says, "The same day there came certain of the Pharisees, saying unto him," Jesus, "Get thee out, and depart hence, for Herod will kill thee. And he said unto them, Go ye, and tell that fox, Behold, I cast out devils, and I do cures today and tomorrow, and the third day I shall be perfected." Matthew makes Herod to die whilst Christ was a child in Egypt, and makes Joseph to return with the child on the news of Herod's death, who had sought to kill him. Luke makes Herod to be living and to seek the life of Jesus after Jesus was 30 years of age, for he says, chapter 3, verse 23, "And Jesus began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph." The obscurity in which the historical part of the New Testament is involved with respect to Herod may afford to priests and commentators a plea, which to some may appear plausible, but to none satisfactory, that the Herod of which Matthew speaks and the Herod of which Luke speaks were different persons. Matthew calls Herod a king, and Luke, chapter 3, verse 1, calls Herod tetrarch, that is, governor, of Galilee. But there could be no such person as a King Herod, because the Jews and their country were then under the dominion of the Roman emperors, who governed then by tetrarchs or governors. Luke chapter 2 makes Jesus to be born when Quirinius was governor in Syria, to which government Judea was annexed, and according to this, Jesus was not born in the time of Herod. Luke says nothing about Herod seeking the life of Jesus when he was born, nor of his destroying the children under 2 years old, nor of Joseph fleeing with Jesus into Egypt, nor of his returning from thence. On the contrary, the book of Luke speaks as if the person it calls Christ had never been out of Judea, and that Herod sought his life after he commenced preaching, as is before stated. I have already shown that Luke in the book called the Acts of the Apostles, which commentators ascribe to Luke, contradicts the account in Matthew with respect to Judas and the 30 pieces of silver. Matthew says that Judas returned the money, and that the high priests bought with it a field to bury strangers in. Luke says that Judas kept the money and bought a field with it for himself. As it is impossible the wisdom of God should err, so it is impossible those books could have been written by divine inspiration. Our belief in God and his unerring wisdom forbids us to believe it. As for myself, I feel religiously happy in the total disbelief of it. There are no other passages called prophecies in Luke than those I have spoken of. I pass on to the book of John. End of Part 3, Section 5. Part 3, Section 6 of The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Book of John. John, like Mark and Luke, is not much of a prophecy monger. He speaks of the ass and the casting lots for Jesus' clothes and some other trifles, of which I have already spoken. John makes Jesus to say, chapter 5, verse 46, "For had ye believed Moses, ye would have believed me, for he wrote of me." The book of the Acts, in speaking of Jesus, says, chapter 3, verse 22, "For Moses truly said unto the fathers, A prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me, him shall ye hear in all things whatsoever he shall say unto you." This passage is in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 15. They apply it as a prophecy of Jesus. What impositions! The person spoken of is in Deuteronomy, and also in Numbers, where the same person is spoken of, is in Joshua, the minister of Moses, and his immediate successor, and just such another Robespierrean character as Moses is represented to have been. The case, as related in those books, is as follows. Moses was grown old and near to his end, and in order to prevent confusion after his death, for the Israelites had no settled system of government, it was thought best to nominate a successor to Moses while he was yet living. This was done, as we are told, in the following manner. Numbers chapter 27, verse 12. "And the Lord said unto Moses, Get thee up into this Mount Abarim, and see the land which I have given unto the children of Israel. And when thou hast seen it, thou also shall be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother is gathered." Verse 15. "And Moses spake unto the Lord, saying, Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, which may go out before them, and which may go in before them, and which may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord be not as sheep that have no shepherd. And the Lord said unto Moses, Take thee Joshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay thine hand upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight. And thou shalt put some of thine honor upon him, and that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient." Verse 22. "And Moses did as the Lord commanded, and he took Joshua and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation. And he laid hands upon him, and gave him charge as the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses. I have nothing to do in this place with the truth or the conjuration here practiced, of raising up a successor to Moses like unto himself. The passage sufficiently proves it is Joshua, and that it is an imposition of John to make the case into a prophecy of Jesus. But the prophecy mongers were so inspired with falsehood that they never speak truth. Note: Newton, Bishop of Bristol in England, published a work in 3 volumes entitled Dissertations on the Prophecies. The work is tediously written and tiresome to read. He strains hard to make every passage into a prophecy that suits his purpose. Among others, he makes this expression of Moses, "The Lord shall raise thee up a prophet like unto me," into a prophecy of Christ, who was not born, according to the Bible chronologies, till 1552 years after the time of Moses, whereas it was an immediate successor to Moses, who was then near his end, that is spoken of in the passage above quoted. This bishop, the better to impose this passage on the world as a prophecy of Christ, has entirely omitted the account in the book of Numbers, which I have given at length word for word, and which shows, beyond the possibility of a doubt, that the person spoken of by Moses is Joshua and no other person. Newton is but a superficial writer. He takes up things upon hearsay and inserts them without either examination or reflection, and the more extraordinary and incredible they are, the better he likes them. In speaking of the walls of Babylon, volume the first, page 263, he makes, by way of giving credit to what he says, a celebrated traveler, that those walls were made of burnt brick, 10 feet square and 3 feet thick. If Newton had only thought of calculating the weight of such a brick, he would have seen the impossibility of their being used or even made. A brick 10 feet square and 3 feet thick contains 300 cubic feet, and allowing a cubic foot of brick to be only 100 pounds, each of the bishop's brick would weigh 30,000 pounds, and it would take about 30 cartloads of hay, 1 horse carts, to make 1 brick. But this account of the stones used in the building of Solomon's temple, volume 2nd, page 211, far exceeds his bricks of 10 feet square in the walls of Babylon. These are but brickbats compared to them. The stones, says he, employed in the foundation were in magnitude 40 cubits, that is, above 60 feet. A cubit, says he, being somewhat more than 1 foot and a half. A cubit is 1 foot 9 inches. And the superstructure, says this bishop, was worthy of such foundations. There were some stones, says he, of the whitest marble 45 cubits long, 5 cubits high, and 6 cubits broad. These are the dimensions this bishop has given, which in measure of 12 inches to a foot is 78 feet 9 inches long, 10 feet 6 inches broad, and 8 feet 3 inches thick, and contains 7,234 cubic feet. I now go to demonstrate the imposition of this bishop. A cubic foot of water weighs 62 pounds and a half. The specific gravity of marble to water is as 2½ is to 1. The weight, therefore, of a cubic foot of marble is 156 pounds, which, multiplied by 7,234, the number of cubic feet in one of those stones, makes the weight of it to be 1,128,504 pounds, which is 503 tons. Allowing then a horse to draw about half a ton, it will require 1,000 horses to draw one such stone on the ground. How then were they to be lifted into the building by human hands? The bishop may talk of faith removing mountains, but all the faith of all the bishops that ever lived could not remove one of these stones, and their bodily strength given in. This bishop also tells of great guns used by the Turks at the taking of Constantinople, one of which, he says, was drawn by 70 yoke of oxen and by 2,000 men. Volume 3, page 117. The weight of a cannon that carries a ball of 48 pounds, which is the largest cannon that are cast, weighs 8,000 pounds, about 3 tons and a half, and may be drawn by 3 yoke of oxen. Anybody may now calculate what the weight of the bishop's great gun must be, that required 70 yoke of oxen to draw it. This bishop beats Gulliver. When men give up the use of the divine gift of reason in writing on any subject, be it religious or anything else, there are no bounds to their extravagance, no limit to their absurdities. The 3 volumes which this bishop has written on what he calls
Hellbound wins! Hey Hellbound, what's up? What's going on, friend? I'm finishing these donuts. I think I might be about done, which means it's time to redecorate the overlay. I think I'm done. Part of me wants to do a little bit more, and part of me thinks I'm done. I think it's good enough. The shadowing definitely does not match because I inceptioned in our little emote from a previous drawing. The main thing was the donuts, and I've got donuts in there. I've even added some sprinkles on those donuts. I glazed up the thing a little bit. I do see at least one thing I want to go in there and fix. At least one. I feel like that would be too much because the coffee cup is already a talking character. Like, the small donut hasn't grown big enough to become sentient yet. It's only the big donut that's sentient. It's only the big donut that's sentient. The little donut isn't sentient. Okay, we can try an experiment, but I still feel like it'll be too much. I'll try an experiment. Also, hi, welcome, Hellbound. How are you tonight? I hope you're doing well.
the prophecies contain above 1,200 pages, and he says in volume 3, page 117, I have studied brevity. This is as marvelous as the bishop's great gun. End note. I pass on to the last passage in these fables of the evangelists, called a prophecy of Jesus Christ. John, having spoken of Jesus expiring on the cross between two thieves, says, chapter 19, verse 32, "Then came the soldiers and brake the legs of the first," meaning one of the thieves, "and of the other which was crucified with him. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was dead already, they brake not his legs." Verse 36. "For these things were done, that the scripture should be fulfilled, a bone of him shall not be broken." The passage here referred to is in Exodus, and has no more to do with Jesus than with the ass he rode upon to Jerusalem, nor yet so much if a roasted jackass, like a roasted he-goat, might be eaten at a Jewish Passover. It might be some consolation to an ass to know that though his bones might be picked, they would not be broken. I go to state the case. The book of Exodus, in institute.
There's an app you have to buy to do those things you see on Instagram where it's like forever inceptioning a drawing into a drawing. I don't have like the DPI level of storage in here that would be needed to create something like that. But I was like, I can group these eyes together and duplicate these eyes and there's like different opacities on the layers, which means they're not completely solid. And duplicating layers is a great way to bring up the color. And so, yeah, when I duplicate this layer, it's like 3 times as evil. Part of me wants to leave it, and part of me wants to get rid of it, and part of me wants to animate it so the eyes just like. Okay. All right. Okay. It would be funny, but this is that just makes the whole thing so much darker immediately. It's like still kind of friendly, whatever. It's just donut eating a donut with some annoying orange eyes, and then it's a little evil annoying orange donut. Just saying. I'm just saying. Okay. Let me put the thing back.
Instituting the Jewish Passover, in which they were to eat a he-lamb or a he-goat, says, chapter 12, verse 5, "Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. He shall take it from the sheep or from the goats." The book, after stating some ceremonies to be used in killing and dressing it, for it was to be roasted, not boiled, says, verse 43, "And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh thereof abroad of the house, neither shalt thou break a bone thereof. We here see that the case as it stands in Exodus is a ceremony and not a prophecy, and totally unconnected with Jesus' bones or any part of him. John, having thus filled up the measure of apostolic fable, concludes his book with something that beats all fable. For he says at the last verse, "And there are also many other things which Jesus did, and which, if they should be written every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. This is what in vulgar life is called a thumper, that is, not only a lie, but a lie beyond the line of possibility, besides which it is an absurdity, for if they should be written in the world would contain them. Here ends the examination of the passages called prophecies. End of Part 3, Section 6. Part 3, Section 7 of The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. I have now, reader, gone through and examined all the passages which the 4 books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John quote from the Old Testament and call them prophecies of Jesus Christ. When I first set down to this examination, I expected to find cause for some censure, but little did I expect to find them so utterly destitute of truth and of all pretensions to it, as I have shown them to be. The practice which the writers of those books employ is not more falsehood than it is absurd. They state some trifling case of the person they call Jesus Christ, and then cut out a sentence from some passage of the Old Testament and call it a prophecy of that case. But when the words thus cut out are restored to the place they are taken from, and read with the words before and after them, they give the lie to the New Testament. A short instance or two of this will suffice for the whole. They make Joseph to dream of an angel who informs him that Herod is dead, and tells him to come with the child out of Egypt. They then cut out a sentence from the book of Hosea, "Out of Egypt have I called my son," and apply it as a prophecy in that case. The words, "and called my son out of Egypt," are in the Bible, but what of that? They are only part of a passage, and not a whole passage, and stand immediately connected with other words, which show they refer to the children of Israel coming out of Egypt in the time of Pharaoh, and to the idolatry they committed afterwards. Again, they tell us that when the soldiers came to break the legs of the crucified persons, they found Jesus was already dead, and therefore did not break his. They then, with some alteration of the original, cut out a sentence from Exodus, "A bone of him shall not be broken," and apply it as a prophecy of that case. The words, "neither shall ye break a bone thereof," for they have altered the text, are in the Bible, but what of that? They are, as in the former case, only part of a passage, and not a whole passage, and when read with the words they are immediately joined to, show it as the bones of a he-lamb or a he-goat, of which the passage speaks. These repeated forgeries and falsifications create a well-founded suspicion that all the cases spoken of concerning the person called Jesus Christ are made cases, on purpose to lug in, and that very clumsily, some broken sentences from the Old Testament and apply them as prophecies of those cases, and that so far from his being the Son of God, he did not exist even as a man, that he is merely an imaginary or allegorical character, as Apollo, Hercules, Jupiter, and all the deities of antiquity were. There is no history written at the time of Jesus Christ is said to have lived that speaks of the existence of such a person, even as a man. Did we find in any other book pretending to give a system of religion the falsehoods, falsifications, contradictions, and absurdities which are to be met with in almost every page of the Old and New Testament, all the priests of the present day who supposed themselves capable would triumphantly show their skill in criticism and cry it down as a most glaring imposition. But since the books in question belong to their own trade and profession, they, or at least many of them, seek to stifle every inquiry into them, and abuse those who have the honesty and the courage to do it. When a book, as is the case with the Old and New Testament, is ushered into the world under the title of being the Word of God, it ought to be examined with the utmost strictness in order to know if it has a well-founded claim to that title or not, and whether we are or are not imposed upon. For as no poison is so dangerous as that which poisons the physic, so no falsehood is so fatal as that which is made an article of faith. This examination becomes more necessary because when the New Testament was written, I might say invented, the art of printing was not known, and there were no other copies of the Old Testament than written copies. A written copy of that book would cost about as much as 600 common printed Bibles now cost. Consequently, the book was in the hands but of very few persons, and these chiefly of the church. This gave an opportunity to the writers of the New Testament to make quotations from the Old Testament as they pleased, and call them prophecies, with very little danger of being detected. Besides which, the terrors and inquisitorial fury of the church, like what they tell us of the flaming sword that turned every way, stood sentry over the New Testament, and time, which brings everything else to light, has served to thicken the darkness that guards it from detection. Were the New Testament now to appear for the first time, every priest of the present day would examine it line by line, and compare the detached sentences it calls prophecies with the whole passages in the Old Testament from whence they are taken. Why then do they not make the same examination at this time as they would make had the New Testament never appeared before? If it be proper and right to make it in one case, it is equally proper and right to do it in the other case. Length of time can make no difference in the right to do it at any time. But instead of doing this, they go on as their predecessors went on before them, to tell the people there are prophecies of Jesus Christ, when the truth is there are none. They tell us that Jesus rose from the dead and ascended into heaven. It is very easy to say so. A great lie is as easily told as a little one. But if he had done so, those would have been the only circumstances respecting him that would have differed from the common lot of man.
Negart is a really good artist. Give a follow. I think we're done. H squared. We got some eyes in there. The donut is freaked out. I think it works. I think it's good enough. Part of me wants to darken those eyes back up of our main dude there. but I don't know. Yeah, I think we got it. I think it's time to redecorate. So I'm going to be messing with the overlay. But there's one thing that we're going to have to do for sure. First, test pattern. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to paste a duplicate. I actually make it a little bit bigger now so you can see a little bit more of the detail of it. It's actually like a whole thing. It just gets very tiny so you can't see it. Okay, so this one is getting retired. It gets to sleep in peace in the coffee bar. I love how shifting it, at least on my screen, shifts which lines appear and which lines disappear. It's weird. Weird, I say. Is it doing that for y'all too? Is it like every time I move it showing different lines? I don't know. All right. It has been retired. Let's see. Ta-da! The test pattern here. Remove. It goes away. Not there. I'm still here. I haven't actually left yet. But we've got to live work. Hello. We've got to do some live editing to the overlay because we've got to put the new overlay in. So I'm going to restart the audiobook and then I'm going to be redecorating. Like Christmas decorations and stuff are going to go away. Um, yeah. So I just realized that whole time my audio wasn't on because I did the thing where I was like, I'm going to restart the audiobook. And then I kept talking. However, I'm not really going anywhere. I'm just that overlay redeem is going to be like we're going to be editing the overlays today. So you're going to be dazed and confused, or gazed and glazed and confused. You're going to be something. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to put the audiobook back on. And I'm going to be flipping through overlays, but I'm actually not leaving or going on break. I'm just like editing the stuff that's in there.
And consequently, the only case that would apply exclusively to him as prophecy would be some passage in the Old Testament that foretold such things of him. But there is not a passage in the Old Testament that speaks of a person who, after being crucified, dead, and buried, should rise from the dead and ascend into heaven. Our prophecy mongers supply the silence the Old Testament guards upon such things by telling us of passages they call prophecies, and that falsely so, about Joseph's dream, old clothes, broken bones, and such like trifling stuff. In writing upon this as upon every other subject, I speak a language full and intelligible. I deal not in hints and intimations. I have several reasons for this. First, that I may be clearly understood. Secondly, that it may be seen I am in earnest. And thirdly, because it is an affront to truth to treat falsehood with complaisance. I will close this treatise with a subject I have already touched upon in the first part of the Age of Reason. The world has been amused with the term revealed religion, and the generality of priests apply this term to the books called the Old and New Testament. The Mohammedans apply the same term to the Koran. There is no man that believes in revealed religion stronger than I do, but it is not the reveries of the Old and New Testament, nor the words of the Koran, that I dignify with that sacred title. That which is revelation to me exists in something which no human mind can invent. No human hand can counterfeit or alter. The Word of God is the creation we behold, and this Word of God revealeth to man all that is necessary for man to know of his Creator. Do we want to contemplate his power? We see it in the immensity of his creation. Do we want to contemplate his wisdom? We see it in the unchangeable order by which the incomprehensible whole is governed. Do we want to contemplate his munificence? We see it in the abundance with which he fills the earth. Do we want to contemplate his mercy? We see it in his not withholding that abundance, even from the unthankful. Do we want to contemplate his will, so far as it respects man? The goodness he shows to all is a lesson for our conduct to each other. In fine, do we want to know what God is? Search not the book called the Scripture, which any human hand might make, or any impostor invent, but the Scripture called the Creation. When in the first part of the Age of Reason I called the creation the true revelation of God to man, I did not know that any other person had expressed the same idea. But I lately met with the writings of Dr. Conyers Middleton, published in the beginning of the last century, in which he expresses himself in the same manner with respect to the creation as I have done in the Age of Reason. He was principal librarian of the University of Cambridge in England, which furnished him with extensive opportunities of writing, and necessarily required he should be well acquainted with the dead as well as the living languages. He was a man of a strong original mind, had the courage to think for himself, and the honesty to speak his thoughts. He made a journey to Rome, from whence he wrote letters to show that the forms and ceremonies of the Romish Christian Church were taken from the degenerate state of the heathen mythology, as it stood in the later times of the Greeks and Romans. He attacked without ceremony the miracles which the Church pretended to perform, and in one of his treatises he called the creation a revelation. The priests of England of that day, in order to defend their citadel by first defending its outworks, attacked him for attacking the Roman ceremonies, and one of them censures him for calling the creation a revelation. He thus replies to him, "One of them," says he, quote, "appears to be scandalized by the title of revelation, which I have given to that discovery which God made of himself in the visible works of his creation. Yet it is no other than what the wise in all ages have given to it, who consider it as the most authentic and indisputable revelation which God has ever given of himself, from the beginning of the world to this day. It was this by which the first notice of him was revealed to the inhabitants of the earth, and by which alone it has been kept up ever since among the several nations of it. From this the reason of man was enabled to trace out his nature and attributes, and by a gradual deduction of consequences to learn his own nature also, with all the duties belonging to it, which relate either to God or to his fellow creatures. This constitution of things was ordained by God as an universal law or rule of conduct to man, the source of all his knowledge, the test of all truth, by which all subsequent revelations, which are supposed to have been given by God in any other manner, must be tried, and cannot be received as divine any further than as they are found to tally and coincide with this original standard. It was this divine law which I referred to in the passage above recited, meaning the passage on which they had attacked him, being desirous to excite the reader's attention to it, as it would enable him to judge more freely of the argument I was handling. For by contemplating this law, he would discover the genuine way which God himself has marked out to us for the acquisition of true knowledge, not from the authority or reports of our fellow creatures, but from the information of the facts and material objects which in his providential distribution of worldly things he hath presented to the perpetual observation of our senses. For as it was from these that his existence and nature, the most important articles of all knowledge, were first discovered to man, as that grand discovery furnished new light towards tracing out the rest, and made all the inferior subjects of human knowledge more easily discoverable to us by the same method. I had another view likewise in the same passages, and applicable to the same end, of giving the reader a more enlarged notion of the question in dispute, who, by turning his thoughts to reflect on the works of the Creator, as they are manifested to us in this fabric of the world, could not fail to observe that they are all of them great, noble, and suitable to the majesty of his nature, carrying with them the proofs of their origin, and showing themselves to be the production of an all-wise and almighty being. And by accustoming his mind to these sublime reflections, he will be prepared to determine whether those miraculous interpositions so confidently affirmed to us by the primitive fathers can reasonably be thought to make a part in the grand scheme of the divine administration, or whether it be agreeable that God, who created all things by his will, and can give what turn to them he pleases by the same will, should, for the particular purposes of his government and the services of the church, descend to the expedient of visions and revelations, granted sometimes to boys for the instruction of the elders, and sometimes to women to settle the fashion and length of their veils, and sometimes to pastors of the church, to enjoin them to ordain one man a lecturer, another a priest, or that he should scatter a profusion of miracles around the stake of a martyr, yet all of them vain and insignificant, and without any sensible effect, either of preserving the life, or easing the sufferings of the saint, or even the mortifying his persecutors, who were always left to enjoy the full triumph of their cruelty, and the poor martyr to expire in a miserable death. When these things, I say, are brought to the original test and compared with the genuine and indisputable works of the Creator, how minute, how trifling, how contemptible must they be! And how incredible must it be thought that for the instruction of his church God should employ ministers so precarious, unsatisfactory, and inadequate, as the ecstasies of women and boys, and the visions of uninterested priests, who were derided at the very time by men of sense to whom they were proposed. That this universal law, continues Middleton, meaning the law revealed in the works of the creation, was actually revealed to the heathen world long before the gospel was known, we learn from all the principal sages of antiquity, who made it the capital subject of their studies and writings. Cicero, says Middleton, has given us a short abstract of it in a fragment still remaining from one of his books on government, which, says Middleton, I shall here transcribe in his own words, as they will illustrate my sense also in the passages that appear so dark and dangerous to my antagonist. The true law, it is Cicero who speaks, is right reason conformable to the nature of things, constant, eternal, diffused through all, which calls us to duty by commanding, deters us from sin by forbidding, which never loses its influence with the good, nor ever preserves it with the wicked. This law cannot be overruled by any other, nor abrogated in whole or in part, nor can we be absolved from it either by the Senate or by the people, nor are we to seek any other comment or interpreter of it but itself. Nor can there be one law at Rome and another at Athens, one now and another hereafter. But the same eternal, immutable law comprehends all nations at all times, under one common master and governor of all, God. He is the inventor, propounder, enactor of this law, and whoever will not obey it must first renounce himself and throw off the nature of man, by doing which he will suffer the greatest punishments, though he should escape all the other torments which are commonly believed to be prepared for the wicked. Here ends the quotation from Cicero. Our doctors, continues Middleton, perhaps will look on this as rank deism, but let them call it what they will. I shall ever avow and defend it as the fundamental, essential, and vital part of all true religions. Close quote. Here ends the quotation from Middleton. End of Part 3, Section 7.
So yeah, we're live redecorating the overlay. That's what's happening right now, in case you're wondering. And right now I'm fixing this light bulb because I gotta put something above that donut now. So trying to fix it. All right.
Part 3, Section 8 of The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. I have here given the reader two sublime extracts from men who lived in ages of time far remote from each other, but who thought alike. Cicero lived before the time in which they tell us Christ was born. Middleton may be called a man of our own time, as he lived within the same century with ourselves. In Cicero we see that vast superiority of mind, that sublimity of right reasoning and justice of ideas, which man acquires, not by studying Bibles and Testaments, and the theology of schools built thereon, but by studying the Creator in the immensity and unchangeable order of his creation, and the immutability of his law. There cannot, says Cicero, be one law now, and another hereafter, but the same eternal, immutable law comprehends all nations, at all times, under one common master and governor of all, God. But according to the doctrine of schools which priests have set up, we see one law, called the Old Testament, given in one age of the world, and another law, called the New Testament, given in another age of the world. As all this is contradictory to the eternal immutable nature and the unerring and unchangeable wisdom of God, we must be compelled to hold this doctrine to be false, and the Old and the New Law, called the Old and the New Testament, to be impositions, fables, and forgeries. In Middleton we see the manly eloquence of an enlarged mind, and the genuine sentiments of a true believer in his Creator. Instead of reposing his faith on books, by whatever name they may be called, whether Old Testaments or New, he fixes the creation as the great original standard by which every other thing called the Word or work of God is to be tried. In this we have an indisputable scale whereby to measure every word or work imputed to him. If the thing so imputed carries not in itself the evidence of the same almightiness of power, of the same unerring truth and wisdom, and the same unchangeable order in all its parts, as are visibly demonstrated to our senses, and comprehensible by our reason, in the magnificent fabric of the universe, that word or that work is not of God. Let then the two books called the Old and New Testament be tried by this rule, and the result will be that the authors of them, whoever they were, will be convicted of forgery. The invariable principles and unchangeable order which regulate the movements of all the parts that compose the universe demonstrate both to our senses and our reason that its Creator is a God of unerring truth. But the Old Testament, beside the numberless, absurd, and bagatelle stories it tells of God, represents him as a God of deceit, a God not to be confided in. Ezekiel makes God to say, chapter 14, verse 9, "And if the prophet be deceived when he hath spoken a thing, I, the Lord, have deceived that prophet." And at the 20th chapter, verse 25, he makes God, in speaking of the children of Israel, to say, "Wherefore I gave them statutes that were not good, and judgments by which they could not live." This, so far from being the word of God, is horrid blasphemy against him. Reader, put thy confidence in thy God, and put no trust in the Bible. The same Old Testament, after telling us that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, makes the same almighty power and eternal wisdom employ itself in giving directions how a priest's garments should be cut, and what sort of stuff they should be made of, and what their offerings should be, gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet, and fine linen and goat's hair and ram's skins dyed red, and badger skins, etc. Chapter 25, verse 3. And in one of the pretended prophecies I have just examined, God is made to give directions how they should kill, cook, and eat a he-lamb or a he-goat. And Ezekiel, chapter 4, to fill up the measure of abominable absurdity, makes God to order him to take wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and fitches, and make a loaf or a cake thereof, and bake it with human dung, and eat it. But as Ezekiel complained that this mess was too strong for his stomach, the matter was compromised from man's dung to cow dung. Ezekiel chapter 4. Compare all this ribaldry, blasphemously called the Word of God, with the almighty power that created the universe, and whose eternal wisdom directs and governs all its mighty movements, and we shall be at a loss to find a name sufficiently contemptible for it. In the promises which the Old Testament pretends that God made to his people, the same derogatory ideas of him prevail. It makes God to promise to Abraham that his seed should be like the stars in heaven and the sand on the seashore for multitude, and that he would give them the land of Canaan as their inheritance forever. But observe, reader, how the performance of this promise was to begin, and then ask thine own reason, if the wisdom of God, whose power is equal to his will, could, consistently with that power and that wisdom, make such a promise. The performance of the promise was to begin, according to that book, by 400 years of bondage and affliction. Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. And God said unto Abraham, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. This promise then to Abraham and his seed forever to inherit the land of Canaan, had it been a fact instead of a fable, was to operate in the commencement of it as a curse upon all the people and their children, and their children's children for 400 years. But the case is, the book of Genesis was written after the bondage in Egypt had taken place. And in order to get rid of the disgrace of the Lord's chosen people, as they called themselves, being in bondage to the Gentiles, they make God to be the author of it, and annex it as a condition to a pretended promise. As if God, in making that promise, had exceeded his power in performing it, and consequently his wisdom in making it, and was obliged to compromise with them for one half, and with the Egyptians to whom they were to be in bondage, for the other half. Without degrading my own reason by bringing those wretched and contemptible tales into a comparative view with the almighty power and eternal wisdom, which the Creator hath demonstrated to our senses in the creation of the universe, I will confine myself to say that if we compare them with the divine and forcible sentiments of Cicero, the result will be that the human mind has degenerated by believing them. Man, in a state of groveling superstition, from which he has not courage to rise, loses the energy of his mental powers. I will not tire the reader with more observations on the Old Testament. As to the New Testament, if it be brought and tried by that standard, which, as Middleton wisely says, God has revealed to our senses, of his almighty power and wisdom in the creation and government of the visible universe, it will be found equally as false, paltry, and absurd as the old. Without entering in this place into any other argument that the story of Christ is of human invention and not of divine origin, I will confine myself to show that it is derogatory to God by the contrivance of it, because the means it supposes God to use are not adequate to the end to be obtained, and therefore are derogatory to the almightiness of his power and the eternity of his wisdom. The New Testament supposes that God sent his Son upon the earth to make a new covenant with man, which the Church calls the covenant of grace, and to instruct mankind in a new doctrine which it calls faith, meaning thereby not faith in God, for Cicero and all true deists always had and always will have this, but faith in the person called Jesus Christ, and that whoever had not this faith should, to use the words of the New Testament, be damned. Now, if this were a fact, it is consistent with that attribute of God, called his goodness, that no time should be lost in letting poor unfortunate man know it. And as that goodness was united to almighty power, and that power to almighty wisdom, all the means existed in the hand of the Creator to make it known immediately over the whole earth, in a manner suitable to the almightiness of his divine nature, and with evidence that would not leave man in doubt. For it is always incumbent upon us, in all cases, to believe that the Almighty always acts, not by imperfect means as imperfect man acts, but consistently with his almightiness. It is this only that can become the infallible criterion by which we can possibly distinguish the works of God from the works of man. Observe now, reader, how the comparison between this supposed mission of Christ, on the belief or disbelief of which they say man was to be saved or damned, observe, I say, how the comparison between this and the almighty power and wisdom of God demonstrated to our senses in the visible creation goes on. The Old Testament tells us that God created the heavens and the earth and everything therein in 6 days. The term 6 days is ridiculous enough when applied to God, but leaving out that absurdity, it contains the idea of almighty power acting unitedly with almighty wisdom to produce an immense work, that of the creation of the universe and everything therein in a short time. Now, as the eternal salvation of man is of much greater importance than his creation, and as that salvation depends, as the New Testament tells us, on man's knowledge of and belief.
All right, I'm not actually going anywhere, but the overlays are going to flip through some things because I think I'm kind of okay where it is now. So I'll be flipping through the different scenes, updating this, and then we might try some words on stream, and then I'm probably going to take a quick short break at some point as well. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah, so I'm not really going anywhere.
In the person called Jesus Christ, it necessarily follows from our belief in the goodness and justice of God and our knowledge of his almighty power and wisdom, as demonstrated in the creation, that all this, if true, would be made known to all parts of the world in as little time, at least, as was employed in making the world. To suppose the Almighty would pay greater regard and attention to the creation and organization of inanimate matter than he would to the salvation of innumerable millions of souls, which himself had created, as the image of himself, is to offer an insult to his goodness and his justice. Now observe, reader, how the promulgation of this pretended salvation by a knowledge of and a belief in Jesus Christ went on, compared with the work of creation. In the first place, it took longer time to make the child than to make the world, for 9 months were passed away and totally lost in a state of pregnancy, which is more than 40 times longer time than God employed in making the world, according to the Bible account. Secondly, several years of Christ's life were lost in a state of human infancy. But the universe was in maturity the moment it existed. Thirdly, Christ, as Luke asserts, was 30 years old before he began to preach what they call his mission. Millions of souls died in the meantime without knowing it. Fourthly, it was above 300 years from that time before the book called the New Testament was compiled into a written copy, before which time there was no such book. Fifthly, it was above 1,000 years after that before it could be circulated, because neither Jesus nor his apostles had knowledge of, or were inspired with, the art of printing, and consequently, as the means for making it universally known did not exist, the means were not equal to the end, and therefore it is not the work of God. I will here subjoin the 19th Psalm, which is truly deistical, to show how universally and instantaneously the works of God make themselves known, compared with this pretended salvation by Jesus Christ. Psalm 19th. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the earth. In them hath he set a chamber for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. Now, had the news of salvation by Jesus Christ been inscribed on the face of the sun and the moon, in characters that all nations would have understood, the whole earth had known it in 24 hours, and all nations would have believed it. Whereas, though it is now almost 2,000 years since, as they tell us, Christ came upon earth, not a 20th part of the people of the earth know anything of it. And among those who do, the wiser part do not believe it. I have now, reader, gone through all the passages called prophecies of Jesus Christ, and shown there is no such thing. I have examined the story told of Jesus Christ, and compared the several circumstances of it with that revelation, which, as Middleton wisely says, God has made to us of his power and wisdom in the structure of the universe, and by which everything ascribed to him is to be tried. The result is that the story of Christ has not one trait, either in its character or in its means employed, that bears the least resemblance to the power and wisdom of God, as demonstrated in the creation of the universe. All the means are human means, slow, uncertain, and inadequate to the accomplishment of the end proposed. And therefore the whole is a fabulous invention, and undeserving of credit. The priests of the present day profess to believe it. They gain their living by it, and they exclaim against something they call infidelity. I will define what it is. He that believes in the story of Christ is an infidel to God. Thomas Paine. End of Part 3, Section 8. Part 3, Appendix, from The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Appendix. Contradictory doctrines in the New Testament between Matthew and Mark. In the New Testament, Mark, chapter 16, verse 16, it is said, "He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. He that believeth not shall be damned." This is making salvation, or in other words, the happiness of man after this life, to depend entirely on believing, or on what Christians call faith. But the 25th chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew makes Jesus Christ to preach a direct contrary doctrine to the Gospel according to Mark, for it makes salvation
I think we're redecorated for the new year. What do you think? What do you think? Like it. I'm surprised OBS hasn't crashed with how much I was just messing with all the overlays. But we've redecorated. We've got a new order to our overlay for the new year. Donuts is officially on there, so I can finally mark this as complete. Yay! It's nice and clean. I'm still probably going to make an entirely new overlay that may or may not have all of these things on it. But I do like having the book that we have up there. I like her band's Books Girl. I think it's appropriate for our stream. Oh. I gotta move one more. This is why I was messing with this, because some of it, like, just what's in front of what can cause issues. So I have to layer these things correctly. There's one more thing I keep wanting to do, and it would be very subtle. But I want to what I don't know if you can see it, but like down there in the corner, there we go. That way's the corner. That way. I can't like reverse triple mirror this. Haha, there we go. That little down there in the overlay, there's like a little power light that is green, and I keep wanting to change the end one to turn it off to red to be this just little subtle way to know that the stream has ended. Anyway, back to the iPad. I've been streaming for like almost 2 hours straight. I really need to go use a restroom, refresh my drink, um, all the things. because I've been sitting here for 2 hours, so I really need to get up and take a break and walk around for a minute. Um, I will be back in a few. And we will make something else. Also, I wish I could make my iPad screen like bigger, but it looks like Santa is like there's looks like there's a Santa hat on these things. Reggie, you've been here like the entire time. Reggie, how did you not even know you were here and that I was streaming or wasn't streaming? Well, you got here just in time for me to take a break. Um, Aw, thanks for that, Reggie. Um, Heartwork supporter, you now get to use all of those lovely emotes. Anyway, I need to take a quick break. I will be back. I'm gonna leave up the screen show, the slideshow. Um, but yeah, we got our little donut, eating a donut, as well as our atheist coffee cup. Nice. We've got our atheist coffee cup, and we've got at Hellbound's request. Ah, why won't you let me work? Damn it! I broke it. Nope, I broke it. I made it mad. Hey, no worries. We've been redecorating. The Christmas overlays are gone, and Brad recently redeemed donuts. Um, so we've got our donut, eating our donut, our atheist coffee cup. We put some hands and eyeballs on there at H Squared's request. And we've got our donut man drawn. But I've been on for 2 hours. I need a drink, maybe some Twizzlers, all that stuff. Thank you again, Reggie. And yeah, now Hardwick supporter, you get to use the emotes. Um, all the lovely emotes. I'll be right back. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I mean, I mean, we are accused of that, so okay. I will be right back, which my be right back is also just my starting soon, except for I just put so much stuff in here. I just flipped these. So yeah, I'll really be back in about 10. And you couldn't hear me. It should not have counted that. I could hear myself on my phone. That should not have counted. Anyway, thanks again for the gift sub. Donut Man. The Donut Man is not eating babies. He's eating other donuts. Part of me wants to make him into an emote. Throw him on a t-shirt. I don't know. I don't know. Ingestion Inception. Yes, the bot interrupting it usually throws it off and makes it not count. Stream elements usually count against the pyramid, so that was really weird. Anyway. Let's get back to Age of Reason. I should find something to work on now that we've got the main portion taken care of here. What should we work on now? Also, I am going to be jumping up. They haven't been counting against for a while. That's really weird. They should be counting. They should be counting. I don't know why they're not. They used to. Oh, so much lovely background noise going on right now. I'm not sure how much the audio is picking up, but there's some lovely background noise going on in here right now. Okay, yay. Nope. Okay, I can see again. It should have counted against, though. Alright. We're almost done with Thomas Paine. There's only about 10 minutes left, everyone. That's insane. To the end of the year, I'm probably going to do a look through back at some of the art we've made on Twitch this year while I figure out what I want to draw next. Might end up playing some words on stream. I don't know. It's my stream. I like words on stream. Anywho, let me get the audiobook started.
Part 3, Appendix, from The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Appendix, Contradictory Doctrines in the New Testament between Matthew and Mark. In the New Testament, Mark, chapter 16, verse 16, it is said, "He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. He that believeth not shall be damned." This is making salvation, or in other words, the happiness of man after this life, to depend entirely on believing, or on what Christians call faith. But the 25th chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew makes Jesus Christ to preach a direct contrary doctrine to the Gospel according to Mark, for it makes salvation, or the future happiness of man, to depend entirely on good works. And those good works are not works done to God, for he needs them not, but good works done to man. The passage referred to in Matthew is the account there given of what is called the last day, or the day of judgment, where the whole world is represented to be divided into two parts, the righteous and the unrighteous, metaphorically called the sheep and the goats. To the one part, called the righteous, or the sheep, it says, "Come ye, blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the beginning of the world. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came to me." Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee? Or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in? Or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, and in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Here is nothing about believing in Christ, nothing about that phantom of the imagination called faith. The works here spoken of are works of humanity and benevolence, or, in other words, an endeavor to make God's creation happy. Here is nothing about preaching and making long prayers, as if God must be dictated to by man, nor about building churches and meetings, nor hiring priests to pray and preach in them. Here is nothing about predestination, that lust which some men have for damning one another. Here is nothing about baptism, whether by sprinkling or plunging, nor about any of those ceremonies for which the Christian church has been fighting, persecuting, and burning each other ever since the Christian church began. If it is to be asked, why do not priests preach the doctrine contained in this chapter? The answer is easy. They are not fond of practicing it themselves. It does not answer for their trade. They had rather get than give. Charity with them begins and ends at home. Had it been said, Come, ye blessed, ye have been liberal in paying the preachers of the word. Ye have contributed largely towards building churches and meeting houses. There is not a hired priest in Christendom that would have thundered it continually in the ears of his congregation. But as it is altogether on good works done to men, the priests pass it over in silence, and they will abuse me for bringing it to notice. Thomas Paine. End of Part 3, Appendix. Part 3, Appendix of The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. My private thoughts on a future state. I have said in the first part of The Age of Reason that
We're in the last 5 minutes, but I'm looking back through all the emotes I made for OA. And this was a thing I made specifically for her birthday stream. So this was for OA's birthday stream.
I hope for happiness after this life. This hope is comfortable to me, and I presume not to go beyond the comfortable idea of hope with respect to a future state. I consider myself in the hands of my Creator, and that he will dispose of me after this life, consistently with his justice and goodness. I leave all these matters to him as my Creator and friend, and I hold it to be presumption in man to make an article of faith as to what the Creator will do with us hereafter. I do not believe, because a man and a woman make a child, that it imposes on the Creator the unavoidable obligation of keeping the being so made in eternal existence hereafter. It is in his power to do so or not to do so, and it is not in our power to decide which he will do. The book called the New Testament, which I hold to be fabulous, and have shown to be false, gives an account in the 25th chapter of Matthew of what is there called the last day, or the day of judgment. The whole world, according to that account, is divided into two parts, the righteous and the unrighteous, figuratively called the sheep and the goats. They are then to receive their sentence. To the one, figuratively called the sheep, it says, "Come ye, blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." To the other, figuratively called the goats, it says, "Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels." Now the case is, the world cannot be thus divided. The moral world, like the physical world, is composed of numerous degrees of character, running imperceptibly one into the other, in such a manner that no fixed point of division can be found in either. That point is nowhere, or is everywhere. The whole world might be divided into two parts numerically, but not as to moral character, and therefore the metaphor of dividing them, as sheep and goats can be divided, whose difference is marked by their external figure, is absurd. All sheep are still sheep, all goats are still goats. It is their physical nature to be so. But one part of the world are not all good alike, nor the other part all wicked alike. There are some exceedingly good, others exceedingly wicked. There is another description of men who cannot be ranked with either the one or the other. They belong neither to the sheep nor the goats. And there is still another description of them, who are so very insignificant both in character and conduct, as not to be worth the trouble of damning or saving, or of raising from the dead. My own opinion is that those whose lives have been spent in doing good and endeavoring to make their fellow mortals happy, for this is the only way in which we can serve God, will be happy hereafter, and that the very wicked will meet with some punishment. But those who are neither good nor bad, or are too insignificant for notice, will be dropped entirely. This is my opinion. It is consistent with my idea of God's justice and with the reason that God has given me, and I gratefully know he has given me a large share of that divine gift. Thomas Paine. End of the third part. End of The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. Recorded for LibriVox by Joe Dickerson, February 2012.
We finally made it through. See, I'm just looking back through all the art we've created in the past year. Of course, it's not a full year of me being here on Twitch, but just stuff that has been done on stream so far. These are ones I made for LF. He was taking on spirit science one night, and I just really wanted to see Patch in a different state. And then I sent him this one, but then he asked me to do this. I made these up while he was doing a stream because I was so annoyed. And then, of course, I'm sure you recognize that one. Because I can't give y'all money, but I'll make you emotes if you make affiliate. Yes. Yeah, that's one of LF's, and that's one of LF's. I'm in LF's folder. Sweet. I think I did this one on stream one night for funsies. Oh, Reggie! Reggie! You're so sweet. Except for when you're not sweet. But thank you. Okay, there's 12 more followers. Awesome. I shut you out, but I'm pretty sure everyone in here is already following. Um, if we get a raid or anything, I'll definitely put some shout outs. Yeah, I like owls too. A lot. A lot, a lot. This is the I just broke Procreate folder. Yeah, I had more people in here though. Yay, you get the flying pig. I see what you're trying to do. No. Dang it. Just so you know though, that thing, you don't actually have to be like a subscriber to the channel. It actually works with any channel's emotes. You can use any emotes here. Someone I think even did it with bits once. I think someone made a bits triangle. Here you go, progress. You can duel people. You can play roulette. Why is that more difficult? See, Tons is free and roaming. Should get him over here. Um, no, wrong, wrong, wrong. I don't know how bits work because I can't give bits. That's why I've made so many. Um, I've I forgot what I was just saying. I'm fairly certain someone tried to do it with bits one day. Hey, Air. Um, I don't know. Tons is free and roaming. You can. He'd love to come torture me, I'm sure. But we finally finished Age of Reason, and we're doing a look back at some of the art that was created here on stream throughout the year, and it's a lot. Like it's a lot. There's a lot in here. The Zen line folder that I started has 77 pieces in it. The Twitch folder has 59 pieces in it. Draw this in your style has 24. Although a lot of these are duplicates to reduce the file size by merging layers but keeping a copy with the layers. Anyway, back into this folder. This is when I like got into a random like trying to paint in Procreate mood. So I was just trying to do like quick wet acrylic things. Just like simple, like honestly, this is the type of stuff that I would teach to drunk people sometimes. Simple stuff. Crystal Cave. This is what I did with my kiddo. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this was the random painting phase of the year. This is a storybook land. I don't know. This is my accidentally erotic landscape with trees. I feel like I need to add something so this doesn't look as lookful. It is what it is. You see what she did there? I didn't do it intentionally. Like, cause when I was all up in it, I was just like making trees and stuff. And then when I saw it up on the screen, I was like, oh, is stalking my activity here? How is Reggie stalking you? What? This was a random I miss New York autumns and mountains drawing. You're the one that sent me to Ben on this account. What? What is happening? He gift subbed me on Ben's stream. Oh my god, how are you listening to two things at once? That's insane. This one's unfinished. But yeah, I've drawn a lot of stuff this year. This one, in case you're new here, this is what I should work on tonight, actually. Goals to finish out the new year. I couldn't deal. I couldn't deal. I'm gonna show you guys this, and then I'm gonna get a drink real quick. Um, there you go. You can roulette with them, you can duel with them, you can use them to purchase hidden commands, although there's not a lot of hidden commands on there anymore. But there are a few commands that cost points. And that's your secondary coinage. The secret stash is separate from the questionable coinage. But I'm gonna be retooling the rewards in there. Good job. How are you listening to 4 sound sources? Oh my gosh. All right. So, in case you don't know, at the very end of last year, not this year, but really at the very end of last year, I, through Amazon KDP, published my first coloring book, and it's all that Zen line art. Um, I don't know how you do any of that, but it's all Zen line art, and it's mostly the mandala style where you just have to pick a pattern. I did put one owl in the background because I don't know, I like owls. Um, but yeah, so it's a whole bunch of Zen line art to color. And as long as you pick a pattern, there's like no way to screw it up, and it looks really cool. So I've got these on Amazon, and I've got some in the shop in Walterboro that I can sign at. Not that you guys needed to know that town name. But so I published my first coloring book. So this is actually the second coloring book that's going to be coming out. I don't know. I still couldn't do that. But anyway, so this is the second coloring book, and I should really try to get this one out. But I'm also writing an actual book that I'm trying to finish by before February. So I don't know. The real like written book is pretty expansive and taking a lot out of me, and it's like the longest thing I've ever written. Um, Yeah, I still don't know how you guys can do that. I cannot listen to two things at once. It is not a capability that I have. Unless it's inside my own brain. If it's inside my own brain, I can listen to multiple things at once, but not from an external source. But anyway, this one is going to be called Idiometry. This one's an adult. That one's adult or kid, or not kid, but like young adult. This one's just going to be for adults. And every drawing is an idiom or a saying or multiple sayings. Um, so this one's working 9 to 5. We've got our Ode to Dolly Parton, 9 to 5 with the bustier and kind of sort of records and books in the lace. And then the melting clocks with that are Dali melting clocks, and they're set to 9 and 5. Um, so this one's got quite a few things worked into it. This one's letting the cat out of the bag. This one is gonna be clickbait, but I need to like do off social media um stuff because if I put the regular ones on there, I'll probably get in trouble for copyright and stuff. So I need to come up with ones that are like close but not quite. This girl is on cloud 9, out of this world. So, and some of these are sketches. Water? What? Some of these are like still sketches and not finalized. They're just trying to get the ideas down. This one's cold turkey. This one's driving me nuts. I don't know if this one's gonna make it. Yeah, that I could see being pretty out there. Like that would be pretty freaky when everyone's talking about the same thing. It's got to be harder to keep it straight. All right. Much love. I'm 90% sure everyone in here is following you, but let's get a shout out anyway in case you're not following. This one's gonna be everything but the kitchen sink, but I need to lower that back cabinet. End of story. Peace out, man. This one is foaming at the mouth. I need to fix this dog's eyes. This one was give a man a fish, but it's like a really rough sketch. This one was grain assault, where I was gonna have a bunch of people beating up someone. This guy's holding his horses. That was jumping the shark. This one's gonna be kicking the habit. Again, very, very quick sketch just to get the idea out of my brain in like 30 seconds to a minute. He's kicking the habit, so the nun is chasing him. That's a coin joke. This is under your nose. Noma, 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 Nome. This girl is gonna be on top of the world. Yeah, I know. I realized that once I saw it on the screen. I was like, oh dang. Um, this is don't put all your eggs in one basket. A piece of cake. This guy's in a pickle. This was supposed to be put that in your pipe and smoke it, but then it turned into a Sherlockian thing accidentally. But whatever. I feel like put that in your pipe and smoke it is something that Sherlock would say. This guy's got a fridge full of turkey and wants to quit his cold turkey. This one's got several references in it. I'm gonna grab my drink real quick now that it's done. And you can guess and see if you can find like the puns and idioms and phrases that are in here. That was a firework. But yeah, they do look like they're doing something. Be back. No guesses. Dang it. See, in my chat, I got that in before you got that. All right. So this one is playing with the Queen of Hearts. This one also has the dead man's hand. He's holding aces and eight. That guy's sweating a lot. Bullets over there because he's dealing with the devil or death. Who knows? And then back here we've got Sheol or Hole's Casino. Lots of little things in that one. This one's rule of thumb. This was you can say that again. Not very well executed. This one I did not do very well, admittedly. This one is sitting duck. Which direction? Oh yes, that reminds me. Let me turn my closed captions on. Because as a reminder, the closed captions pull from another dimension entirely. Sitting duck. The early bird gets the worm, so sleep late. This one's into thin air. That's going to be DB Cooper. This poor dog is barking up the wrong tree. That's it for that folder. Those were not even halfway through all the stuff that we made this year on stream. Because a lot of those I worked on stream, or some of them at least. I don't remember which ones. This was one of the first things I ever did on stream. Also, my tongue's probably about to turn blue. But yeah, this was the first thing I ever drew on stream, I think, was these coffee cups. No warheads. Although this candy is special candy that I got for Christmas. I don't want to see you guys like seeing me try to work through it. But no, no warheads. Um, where the pink bears came from. Yep. This is where the pink bears came from. Just seeing if it was still working. But yeah, I was working on this. Yeah, uh-huh. I know. You got your workaround. Enjoy it. Um, this is where it came from. And they were driving me nuts getting around the pink bears bot command. So it was like, if I make the pink bears, will you tell me? So that was fun. My tongue is blue now. Okay. Moving on. What's in here? This is not entirely stuff that I've made on stream. It is stuff that I've made this year that I haven't necessarily shared. Sometimes make art when I'm sad and it makes me feel better. That was a fun sneeze. Um, this was in a challenge thing where we had to draw like a scientist dwarf that was looking menacing, I think. And I had to finish it very quickly. Um, so it's not like as complete as I would like it, but I also wasn't about to work on it more, so I just left it as it was. I think you guys remember this one. Did a lot of draw this in your style challenges this year. And a lot of these have multiples for trying to share with without a gazillion layers. This was the first one. It was drawing one of Anthony Weiner's characters. Then we have the demon cheerleader, which honestly I didn't change this one too much. Like I just wanted to like make sure I was getting the proportions correct on this one. I didn't make it mine as much as I should have. Then there was this one, which again, I was like trying to figure out the different techniques that were used in the veil and other things. So I didn't differentiate mine as much as I felt like I should have, but still, it's definitely different. It's still my own style, but part of it was me wanting to figure out how certain effects were achieved. So I was like messing around with things, trying to get the same results. This one came out pretty cool. Excuse me. This one came out pretty cool. I liked how this one came out. Very witchy and magical. This is another draw this in your style challenge. I really went all in on the textures on that one. There's a lot more texturing that I did in here that I don't normally do. Then there was the Brooklyn Kaiju redraw. This was a cheeky challenge that I don't think I ever showed, where I apparently accidentally drew Amaranth. I didn't mean to draw Amaranth, but apparently I did. This was also when I think I had the Rona, so I never finished shading it. Like, never finished the background. I was just like, I'm done. And then people are like, you accidentally drew Amaranth. She has no nose right now. There's like so many things I just didn't bother finishing, and I was just like, whatever. This one was pretty fun. I like this one. This one was another cheeky challenge pose, so it wasn't drawing someone else's style, but it was drawing and sticking to a pose. And there were two options, and I ended up doing both of them for funsies. Um, nope. This was another draw this in your style. I like this one. Cutish. This is a draw this in your style that I didn't post. This is a character straight out of Shrek. This one we did on stream. This one was again for another Brooklyn Kaiju style challenge. This one was like pretty much retro 90s. And I inceptioned in my logo and like our little heart guy is her hair barrette. That one was fun. Was fun. And then this one was the most recent, like draw your own style thing. This one was Inner Spark, and this was me redrawing an older drawing. Very Jessica Rabbit inspired. Yes, a little bit of the Sea Witch of Ursula, Ariel as well. But the dress was meant to be ink. Um, and she's got radio tower earrings for her music. Like I said, we've drawn a lot on stream this year. I worked on some of these. These are characters for a story that I've been working on. messing around with. And I didn't do all of these on stream, but like this one I did on stream. This one I think I did some of it on stream. That one we did on stream. That one we did on stream. This one we did on stream. And that was a year difference. And these also might have been a entirely different program. I may have done the left in fresco. I should draw them again, and put like a third year comparison with it. This is one of our emotes. It's the Mikey and Neil emote. It's the 604 Mike. This is one of the emotes that you have. And this was just me messing around. This is probably the biggest folder of stuff that we did all year because we made a lot of these on stream. Like a lot of these. So many. We made so much stuff this year. I should stop going through them so fast so you all have a chance to like look. You may not want to though. Your brain might be tired of all the images that we made this year because it's a lot. We made a lot of stuff on stream this year. Finished several audiobooks. I feel like these, at least on my screen, these take a second before like the full color comes through and like all the layers come through, and then like it lights up. So I feel like for new age people, it would be like it activates. Like there's this very subtle color change that happens where it kind of brightens up after it comes on the screen, at least for me. Yeah, so much stuff. So much stuff. That and that are the same thing. They're just colored. Like one of them's actually colored in, and then this one's just the lines colored. But they're the same design with the same lines. Man, so much stuff. Figure out what to do with all of these. What can I do with all of these images? There's got to be a place for these images out in the world. Again, this is a lot of the same image, just colored differently, or part of it cut out. And again, just cut it down and then colored it differently. So many things. Yeah, she did get it in color on stream one day. That was pretty cool. One of these days I'll figure that out. I don't think I've figured out how to do an overhead camera so you guys can like see me actually drawing. But um I'm probably like tomorrow I'm gonna be doing probably some test streams at some point. I don't want to say like during the day or during the evening, like I don't know when, like it'll happen when it'll happen. But I think I figured out how to do a painting stream because a lot of people wanted to do a painting stream. So um, we'll do a quick happy little trees type deal. Um, but yeah, I think I figured out how to do that and like keep all of my overlay stuff. So it's not just like a plain mobile stream. Like I said, we'll see. We have so many artworks this year, and most of these were drawn on stream as short warm ups before other stuff. Some of them ended up taking longer. There's like 80 of these in here at this point. Probably have enough to make another second edition of the coloring book. I just don't feel like going through all the formatting that would take. The problem is I don't have actual cameras. I have a phone. Um, I use the built-in on the laptop for these streams, and I still need to buy a new battery so that it doesn't overheat and not be able to function. I don't use the mic. I do have a mic, but I don't use it because I don't want it to overheat the system. Um, but yeah, I just use the built-in. So yeah, a lot of these we made on stream, and very few of them repeat. Like there are a couple that look somewhat similar. Um, but for using a lot of the same lines, it's amazing that these don't really repeat too much. A couple of them do, a little, but not quite. This was the owl one. The patriotic one. The leafy one. The medieval belt buckle ones. This is another foxy looking one. That was something a little different. That was more actual like imagery going on, but bicycle colored in thing. Actual black and white of the thing. I hid Toto in that one. I don't think I did this one on stream. This one I did on stream. A monster dude came from it, so that's what happened. And then after I made this one on accident, I was like, now let's make them on purpose. That's my evil mojo Jojo. This was more of a cutesy one. This one I started and then it was hurting my eyes, so I stopped. I should maybe finish it though. I might finish this. That might be what I do for rest of stream. This was an owl I started but didn't like. More Zen line. More and more Zen line. Kind of like neon electricity snowflake. I don't know. This one, I think I started with the idea of a snowflake and then ended up here, wherever here is. This is the thing that came out of me. um, should add up all my crazy clips that y'all have taken and make a video. My back is not happy. I think this was the one from last time. I didn't love this one as much. There's one little part of it that is bugging me. That if I fix that, I might like it. But as of right now, I'm not sure I do. Yeah, that was the last one. We made it through. A lot of the stacks like have multiples, so they show more than they have. But that Zen line one has 77 pieces in it, and almost all of them are different pieces. And almost all of them we created on stream. And I want to say I think I started in March or April, so we're coming up on a year, but not quite. This is one I think I did mostly off stream. I was just messing with textures. It was like just a study in trying to get a bunch of different textures and techniques and stuff. I was messing with different brushes and stuff and things. Um, I think I went through all of the Twitch stuff before. But a lot of these are emotes. Some of it is the holiday stuff I just made, which I'll need to move out of here and move into the holiday folder. Done a few practices online. I've done some just practicing drawing different aspects. Um, this was a nose study night. And this one was from not too long ago. We did a hands study. Because part of me thinks I can't draw hands. And then I drew the hands just fine. They're not bad hands. So I guess I'm not bad at drawing hands unless I try to put them on a drawing. Like I'm pretty decent at drawing a nose, like when it's not on a face. But then I go to add it to a face, and suddenly it's not a thing that I can draw. What is in here? So this is some stuff. I mix up stuff I did on stream and a mix of stuff I didn't do on stream. So this was technically the last day of Inktober. I didn't get around to it. Um, so it was Courage the Cowardly Dog. So I cheated a little and did one digital. I don't think there's any real way to cheat if you were creating something every day of Inktober or of these challenge months. But sometimes I set my own goals and I want to be able to meet those. So I was mad at myself for not doing this one on pen and paper. And I guess that reminds me, while I'm in here, I don't have too many left, but I did, when I jumped on for Inktober, for the most part, most of the time, I came with some drawings. I've given some of these away, but why not? I have a sketchbook near me. We'll go for it. Some of these I might color and do giveaways at some point. It's a prompt word, and then I had a theme. And my theme was nostalgia. So I was drawing like all these older characters for the most part. I like hiding my signature in fun, weird ways. But yeah, in case you weren't here much in October, a lot of the best drawings are gone. Like I'll bring those up digitally. But a lot of the drawings got given away already, so these are some of what's left. But are we gonna be taking over the world tonight? No, probably not. I cheated a little bit on this one. His flame shouldn't have been blue, but I don't know. I like the blue, so it is whatever. I think the prompt for that day was flame. I think the prompt for this one was match. Wrong way. That way. Yeah, I doubt we'll be taking over the world. This one made me remember that Angela Lansbury passed this year because I really wanted to include the Dowager Empress. Um, for what the prompt was, I pretty much wanted to go with Anastasia, so the Dowager Empress was played by Lansbury. Yeah, Anastasia. But Angela Lansbury, I honestly don't remember who played Anastasia, but Angela Lansbury played the Dowager Empress. Um, so it was my little ode to her because I drew this not too long after she passed. The Powerpuff Girls. Very, 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 what's the word? Appropriate since we also listened to A Christmas Carol not too long ago. Seasonal. That's what I was trying to think of. I thought I was personally brilliant with this one because it was armadillo, and I'd rather draw the girl than draw the armadillo. This is Chell from The Road to El Dorado, and Bebo was the name. I remember a few things from it. There's still some good ones left in here. Got a robot chicken guy. This is from Blue's Clues. Yeah, that one was Robot Chicken. Lots of classic characters that I went through when I Like marker, basic marker art like this has always been my jam. I love doing marker art, but I didn't have all the right colors to shade because the markers that I like are expensive and I can't afford new markers right now. Um, so I had to work with the colors that I had. This one I really wanted to color, but I ran out of time. I did not have time to color this one. Er, yeah, maybe. It's possible. So yeah, for each prompt word, I found like a nostalgic cartoon character. Not completely all cartoons, actually. I'll show you the ones that were given away in a minute. This was probably my worst one where I had like 5 to 10 minutes and just had to draw something like really, really quick. So that's what I went with. And I'm pretty sure the prompt for that day was fairy. So I drew Maleficent's face. Um, this one I really wanted to color too. I didn't get a chance to color this one. I had promised myself at the get go that I wasn't gonna color, and then on day 3 I had to color. I couldn't help myself. This is another one that I wanted to color, but I spent so long like working on it that I did not have time to color it. There's so much stuff in those stacks of food. It was worth it though. It's fun. Trunk. Yeah, I hope not. They both had a knife, actually. Yeah, so I do draw in like actual real world sometimes. When I did the Inktober drawing challenge, I really felt the need to do marker because we have done so much digital on stream. But those were also this year. Let me pull this up. Okay, so these are. Can I do window capture? Yes. Okay, so these are ones that. Okay, that's not gonna work. Nope, this is not gonna work. Okay, fine. So this one was bouquet. So I drew the original Morticia Adams. Now I can't see chat. There we go. That one was kind of goofy. But this is the original Morticia Adams. Um, for bouquet, I knew like I immediately was like I don't want to draw a bunch of flowers. So I got Morticia Adams like cutting the stems in my head, and then I decided to do the original. And then we had Nest, and for Nest I got, and these are scans of the marker drawings, by the way. So these still aren't digital; they're scans of my marker stuff. Because apparently we're doing an end of year recap accidentally today. Yeah, it was Nest. So I got Woodstock and Tweety stealing Big Bird's nest. This is the one that made me accidentally start coloring everything. I don't even remember what the prompt for that day was. But as soon as I drew this one, I decided I needed to um color it. I couldn't not color it. And then that sent me down a path of coloring so many of them when I had meant to do black and white. But I could not color her. I'll maybe just put her up too. Um yeah, this one is another marker. And it was another one where it's like I can't not color her. So that's a marker drawing as well. And all of these ones I'm showing you are ones that I have scanned um because they got chosen for giveaways that I was doing. This is gonna be the rest of the stream. I'll put a very small like video capture like somewhere, and we'll just leave these two up as our bookends. Yes, that's where she was. She was hiding at my house. But I could not color Carmen, and then of course you can't not color Jessica Rabbit. Part of me wants to pull that into digital and take the background off so I can put her like over here. I forget what this one was for. I think it was Scratch. It might have been Scratch. Again, these are all from October where I was really doing a drawing a day and a lot of stuff. October is always my craziest month. This one got given away. And I've realized there's literally a sound difference in this image. If you're of a certain age, you will hear the image, and if you are not, you won't. So either you can hear it or you can't. More marker work scans. And then there's like one more. Who would hear Muttley snickering in the image? Like I said, if you're of a certain age, you hear this, it like triggers a memory hole. Um, if you're of a certain age, though, a lot of people don't know who this is. But yeah, October was certainly a trip down nostalgia lane. Like, I think the only reason I was able to keep up with it was because I was doing I was doing existing characters, and it's always easy. Like, I'm a decent copy artist. Like, I can look at it and reproduce it. Um, I've always been decent at that. And I have a thing for old cartoons. And this is the last one. This was one where I didn't have a lot of time and I really rushed it, and it's not my best work. But you can tell who the character is, so it's fine. But those are all ones that I gave out as prizes. These are copyright characters, so I don't want to be selling these. So I've just been doing them for giveaways. So I might give away more of these drawings from this past year. All right, get rid of that. What am I doing? Close that out. Bring that back up. Okay. So yeah, that was a bunch of actual marker drawings from October, and then for the last one, I cheated and did a digital Courage the Cowardly Dog. This was some weird random fairy thing. I don't know. I worked on it a little bit on stream, but never really finished or did anything with it. I was just messing around. This was a creepy mood lady for Halloween. This was a famous X-Men moment-ish, kinda. I don't know. I wanted to like I was trying to figure out how to get the gold effect. Um like the shimmery golden metallic effect. Um Sometimes I do stuff where only part of it looks good, and it's because I was focusing on like trying to level up that skill. And I've been streaming for 3.5 hours, and we're not even done yet. We're almost done. I feel like I'm determined to finish this recap. Um, so yeah, what else do we make on stream? I don't know if I totally made this guy on stream, but this is our Pastafarian meatball breadstick seasoned grating snowman. And then, of course, we had Gnome Getty. This one was fun. I like doing the pasta beard and everything. I liked it. The flying spaghetti monster. Slightly awkwardly, but that's where else could I put the flying spaghetti monster on the apron? Just saying. Exactly. I wish it would take these Santa hats off of everything. But yeah, seasoned greetings and seasoned greetings to you. Let's see. This is holiday stuff. Not everything that I created this year. Um, this is like a 4x4 painting that I did a few years ago that I don't think I still have. I think I loaned it out for a show and didn't get it back. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know. But I went somewhere. And then I went to do like a digital version a few years ago. I didn't really like it, so I did start tinkering with that one again on stream. But I don't know. There's just something about this one. No. And then came the prompt ones. So this was from like a bunch of different prompt words. These were fun. This was a winter painting, trying to paint in Procreate. This is another prompt word, prompt thing. Then again, these is like timed, like you're trying to do these fast. Oh, for sure. Some stuff I like draw out and then I paint it and it doesn't work. Like some images just work in their own different mediums. But this was the bit of fun we had with these different prompts. Whereas random words that had to be worked into a drawing. So I got to create these fun holiday scenes off the top of my head from some prompt words. We're going to be doing more prompt streams. Maybe I'll start making them like once a month or something. And then, of course, this was one of the last ones. This is one I started this year, um, that I haven't finished, that I should maybe work on, that I've redone a bunch of times. So it's a ode to Harley with like a bunch of her costumes put together. And I'm modeling her after like an old pencil drawing. And this is a painting where I'm trying to do a thing and I don't think I'm succeeding. Human portraiture has never been my thing. Um, but I'm attempting human portraiture in digital and it's just not it's not working for me completely. Like parts of it, but other parts not so much. Bonus points if anyone can tell who it is. Yay! Maybe I'm not as bad at this as I thought I was. Um, yeah, it's attempting to be, but again, I haven't painted that much like actual portraiture of humans. I've done a lot of sketch, but I haven't done a lot of paint of humans, and it's just a whole nother thing to get certain things right with it that I'm studying and learning. Um, I have this idea to do a digital series that requires me to draw them. I have so many ideas and projects in the works. So many things. But yay, thank you. Maybe it's not completely terrible if you can loosely tell who it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of it the wrong way. And I should try it in a different style or a different pose. I don't know. And this one, which is just a random thing we started that we never did anything with. Another thing I've been trying to work on more this year is not relying on lines so much and working more with shadows and highlights. And I think it's been a pretty fun year. I think I've drawn a lot. Missing some facial hair. The scene in pose like that so helps confirm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Um, but again, human portraiture is something else, and I don't know. I'm not great at realism yet. But yeah, so that's a whole bunch of stuff that we was drawn and created in less than the last year. I've been on Twitch with y'all. And let's see here. The other big project, of course, was. Can I find it? Can I find it? Is it on here? The other big project was the Scarecrow, which I started out wanting to make a Medusa, but ended up making a Merdusa, kinda. Um, this was made from soda bottles and soda bottle caps, and there was like 1,000 something. So this was a thing I made out of soda bottles, and had up in our town square. Everything made out of soda bottles. And yes, I did reuse the old dress. Um, this is a contest thing that I enter every year. And I probably shouldn't, but this is that theater that I used to help run. So yeah. No. No, it's not fun. It's one of the most annoying sounds in the world to make that rope. But yeah, most of this is made out of plastic bottles, even the hair. So yeah, it's been a busy year. It's been a very busy year. Um, I don't think I have pictures of it on here, but I also have stuff like at the consignment store as well. So anyway, we got the donut dude finished. We redecorated the overlay. We streamed for 3.5 hours. Um, yeah. So this is my YouTube. I don't have a whole lot of stuff on there, but one of the things I do have on here. Oh, is it not on here? Okay, it's on my different one. All right. Are you get ready to hear this noise? Thank you. That YouTube though is when I'm trying to post more stuff to. Um, So we drew our guy. We overhauled. We took an entire art tour of so much art that I created on stream with you guys this year. I can't even. I lost count. Um, which is just amazing. Very productive year. Um, even not even a full year. So I just appreciate the hell out of everyone, and I am going to end the stream without reading. But thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for chilling for the art tour, open digital sketchbook review of the almost year I've been on Twitch. I'm not gonna read. I'm just gonna say thanks again and good night. Have a great new year. I'll probably see you tomorrow for a test stream. Go forth and love on some other streamer. Bye. Night.